When Denzel Washington's wife is humiliated at a luxury car dealership, they don't realize who she's married to until it's too late. The California sun cast a golden glow across the polished streets of Beverly Hills. Shimmering shop windows reflected the late afternoon light, and palm trees swayed gently in the breeze. It was the kind of day that made everything seem effortless, even if you were just out running errands. Inside Halston Elite Motors, a high-end luxury car dealership nestled between designer boutiques and celebrity-frequented cafes, the air was cool and still. Polished marble floors stretched beneath gleaming vehicles, sleek, futuristic machines with six-figure price tags. The glass doors parted with a soft swoosh as Pauletta Washington stepped inside. She walked with quiet grace, dressed in a simple cashmere sweater, tailored slacks, and low heels. No diamond necklaces, no paparazzi, just a woman with elegance in every step. "Good afternoon," she said with a warm smile as she approached the front desk. The receptionist, a young woman scrolling her tablet, barely looked up. "Hi," she replied, monotone. "I was hoping to take a look at your newest electric models," Pauletta continued, her voice gentle but clear. The receptionist blinked, then nodded without enthusiasm. "Someone will be with you shortly." Pauletta offered a soft "thank you" and stepped aside, admiring a deep navy SUV under a spotlight. Across the showroom, three salesmen stood chatting near the espresso bar. One glanced at her, then leaned in to whisper something to the others. They chuckled quietly. None of them moved. To them, she was just another curious browser, maybe someone's assistant or a woman killing time. Pauletta didn't press. She waited, poised and patient. Minutes ticked by. Customers entered and were greeted instantly. A young couple in matching designer sneakers. A man in a sharp navy suit and gold watch. But Pauletta, standing alone, unassuming, remained invisible. The quiet hum of soft jazz and muffled conversations filled the space. And still, no one came. What none of them realized was that this wasn't just a woman admiring luxury cars on a sunny afternoon. This was Pauletta Washington, an accomplished actress, a philanthropist, and the wife of one of the most respected men in Hollywood. But in that moment, to them, she was just another woman, and that mistake was about to echo far louder than they ever expected. Pauletta shifted her weight slightly, her heels making a soft click against the glossy floor as she moved closer to a striking silver electric coupe. She trailed a finger gently along the edge of the driver's side door, admiring the craftsmanship. Still, no one approached her. Behind her, voices carried just loud enough to be overheard. "She's probably just browsing," one salesman said under his breath. "You know the type, kicks the tires, takes selfies, leaves." The others chuckled, not even attempting to lower their voices. Pauletta exhaled softly through her nose. She wasn't new to being underestimated, but it didn't make it any less exhausting. Finally, she turned and made her way toward a nearby salesperson, a tall man in a tailored gray blazer, scrolling through his phone with the practiced boredom of someone who believed time was his luxury. "Excuse me," Pauletta said, politely. "Could you tell me more about the EV9 model over there?" He looked up, blinked once, then forced a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Oh, ma'am," he said, his tone slow and deliberate. "You might want to check our pre-owned section. It's got more approachable options." He gestured lazily toward the far corner of the showroom. Pauletta paused. Her expression didn't change, but something behind her eyes hardened. "I'm actually interested in something new," she said calmly. "Specifically the EV9. My husband and I were reviewing it online last night." The salesman's smile faltered for a split second before returning, thinner this time. "Of course," he said quickly. "It's just that, well, the price point is a little steep. People sometimes don't realize." He didn't finish the sentence, but the implication hung heavy in the air. Pauletta tilted her head slightly, studying him. She could have said something. She could have name-dropped. She could have mentioned her last name or the fact that she and her husband had test-driven models with far higher price tags than this one. But she didn't. Instead, she simply said, "Thank you," and turned away. The salesman watched her go, oblivious to the opportunity he'd just thrown away. And as Pauletta walked toward the exit, the sun streaming through the showroom windows caught the faintest flicker of something on her face. Not anger, not sadness, just quiet resolve. They had no idea who she was, but they were about to find out. Pauletta wasn't about to let someone else decide what she could or couldn't afford. She moved with quiet confidence back toward the silver coupe, her eyes drawn to a sleek black model parked beside it, a limited edition only recently released. She and Denzel had spent the night before reading reviews, watching videos, comparing specs. She knew exactly what she was looking at. Turning toward the same salesman, she asked, "Does this model come with the Level 3 autonomous package? And is it included in the base price or part of the executive trim?" The man blinked. There was a beat of silence. Then he let out a short, dismissive laugh. "Do you even know the price tag on this?" He said it casually, like a joke. But the sting was intentional. Across the showroom, heads turned. A middle-aged couple near the coffee station paused mid-sip. One of the younger sales associates looked up from his tablet, his brows knitting slightly. Pauletta didn't flinch. Her spine straightened, her voice calm. "Yes," she said, "I do." But her grip on her purse tightened, just enough to betray the tension that now simmered beneath her composed surface. The salesman gave an awkward chuckle, clearly unaware of the silence settling around them. "Didn't mean anything by it," he added with a shrug. "Just saying, these cars aren't exactly for everyone." Pauletta held his gaze for a long moment. Then, without another word, she turned away. As she walked past the other vehicles, her reflection shimmered along the spotless exteriors, strong, poised, unmoved by the ignorance she'd just faced. And yet, something inside her ached, not from embarrassment, but from the familiar weight of being underestimated. Again, the glass doors loomed ahead, a portal back to the sunshine and stillness of Beverly Hills. Pauletta's heels clicked softly as she crossed the showroom, her shoulders squared, her head held high. She passed the receptionist, who still hadn't looked up. She passed the espresso bar, where the murmurs of conversation had gone quiet. The salesman didn't follow. He didn't apologize. But someone else noticed. A younger employee, no older than 25, stood off to the side, detailing paperwork. He looked up, eyes tracking Pauletta's path with something like curiosity, maybe even recognition. As Pauletta reached the door, she paused for just a moment, not to make a scene, not to lash out, just to speak a truth that hung heavier than any price tag. "I was just hoping to surprise my husband today," she said aloud, her voice measured but clear. "But I guess I'll take my business elsewhere." And with that, she stepped into the California light, letting the door close gently behind her. No name, no grand exit. Just a woman, graceful, intelligent, capable, walking away from a room that hadn't earned her presence. Inside, the young employee blinked, the wheels clearly turning. He looked back at the vehicle Pauletta had admired, then at the salesman still glued to his phone. Something wasn't right, but it was too late. The moment was gone, and the opportunity had walked right out the door. The sun dipped low behind the hills of Los Angeles, casting long golden shadows across the Washingtons' quiet estate. Inside, the home was warm and peaceful, filled with the soft rustle of evening, distant music, the scent of dinner, the gentle ticking of a wall clock. Pauletta sat at the edge of their kitchen nook, a cup of tea between her hands. She hadn't planned to say anything. She'd gone the entire ride home in silence, not wanting to let the day's insult sour the evening. But when Denzel walked in, still unwinding from a day on set, she looked up, and something in his eyes, that calm, steady presence, made her speak. She told him everything: the waiting, the smirks, the question, "Do you even know the price tag?" Denzel didn't interrupt. He didn't frown. He just listened, really listened, the way only someone with deep patience and decades of experience could. When she finished, he didn't launch into outrage or indignation. He simply reached across the table, took her hand, and said, "Thank you for telling me." Then he stood, walked into his office, and picked up his phone. There were no theatrics, no dramatic declarations, just a calm, direct call to someone he knew would answer. The tone of his voice was steady, low, professional. And as he hung up, he leaned against the desk, arms folded, and stared out the window into the night. Sometimes the loudest response isn't volume, it's intent, and his was crystal clear. Morning light broke over Beverly Hills, bathing the streets in soft amber glow. The city buzzed with its usual rhythm: joggers, lattes, the hum of exotic cars. But at Halston Elite Motors, that rhythm was about to be broken. A sleek black SUV pulled up to the curb, its engine humming to a stop. The door opened smoothly, and out stepped Denzel Washington. No entourage, no sunglasses, just crisp dark jeans, a black blazer, and that unmistakable quiet gravitas. The receptionist spotted him first. Her hand froze mid-type, her eyes wide. "Oh my God," she whispered under her breath. Two salesmen, mid-conversation, suddenly stood straighter. One hastily adjusted his tie. Another quickly grabbed a clipboard, pretending to review inventory. The air shifted. The arrogance that had filled the showroom yesterday had evaporated. Denzel didn't look around. He didn't browse. He walked with purpose, steady, unhurried, straight past the floor models, past the espresso bar, and toward the glass-walled office at the back. Inside, the manager looked up from his desk and nearly dropped his tablet. Before he could stand, Denzel opened the door, calm, collected, commanding. "Mind if I have a word?" he asked. The room went still. Outside the office, a few staff members exchanged glances, their whispers quiet but frantic. They didn't know what was about to be said, but they knew one thing for sure. This wasn't just a visit, it was a reckoning. The door to the manager's office clicked shut, muffling the tension building just beyond its glass walls. Inside, the manager, a man in his 40s with slicked back hair and a designer watch, stood behind his desk, visibly flustered. "Mr. Washington," he said quickly, gesturing to a chair. We didn't know." Denzel held up a hand, calm but firm. "Don't worry, this isn't about me." He sat down, folding his hands neatly in his lap, his voice low but clear. "I'm here as a husband." The manager blinked, unsure where the conversation was going. "My wife came in yesterday," Denzel continued. "She was polite, curious, interested in one of your flagship models." The manager opened his mouth, but Denzel gently continued, never raising his voice. "She was ignored, talked down to, laughed at, and all because she didn't fit your staff's idea of what a buyer looks like." The words weren't loud, but they landed heavy. "This isn't about poor service," Denzel said. "It's about assumptions, the kind that are made before someone even opens their mouth, the kind that diminish people, that dismiss them." The manager swallowed, clearly uncomfortable. "I'm not here to embarrass anyone," Denzel said, his gaze unwavering. "But I believe in holding people accountable, especially when the issue is bigger than just one bad interaction." He leaned forward slightly. "We teach people, especially the young ones, by how we behave, what we tolerate, what we ignore. That kind of arrogance on your showroom floor, that's a reflection of culture, not just one salesman." The manager nodded slowly, understanding now that this wasn't just a complaint. It was a challenge to do better. A moment later, the intercom buzzed. Could all sales staff report to the main floor for an all-hands meeting? Denzel stood. "I'll join you," he said. Not as a star, not as a name, as a man who expects better. The sales floor filled slowly, Conversations died out as staff members took their places in a loose semicircle near the central lounge. No one knew exactly what was coming, but the presence of Denzel Washington standing calmly beside the manager said enough. He didn't need to raise his voice. His presence did that for him. "Good morning," he began, looking around at the group. "I won't keep you long." The room was silent, all eyes on him. "I came here today not as a celebrity, but because my wife was treated unfairly in this very room, and she didn't deserve that." A flicker of discomfort passed through the group. "But this isn't just about her, it's about something bigger." Denzel paused, letting the silence carry his words further. "We've all heard the phrase, 'Don't judge a book by its cover,' but it's not just a saying, it's a reminder, a warning. You never know who someone is or what they represent, and more importantly, it shouldn't matter." Murmurs stirred among the staff. Some shifted on their feet, eyes downcast. Others met his gaze, listening closely. "I get it. You're in sales. You think you can spot a buyer from across the room, but when you assume, based on clothes, skin, gender, age, you're not just missing a sale, you're missing a person." The room fell still again, the weight of his words sinking deep. He looked toward the younger faces in the crowd. "People remember how you make them feel, long after they forget what you were selling." A pause. Then, with gentle finality, he added, "Lead with respect." Every time. No applause followed, no performance, just a thick silence, the kind that follows truth. As Denzel turned to leave, a young salesman, the same one who'd noticed Pauletta the day before, stepped forward quietly. "Thank you, sir," he said, his voice just above a whisper, "for saying what needed to be said." Denzel nodded once. "Make sure you remember it." And with that, he walked out the door, leaving behind something more powerful than any product in the showroom: perspective. 3 days passed. The incident at the dealership faded from the headlines, but not from the people who lived it. At the Washingtons' home, nestled in the quiet hills of Los Angeles, the afternoon sun cast soft light over the driveway as a sleek, custom black, electric luxury vehicle rolled up on a flatbed. Its polished finish shimmered like glass, reflecting the sky, the trees, and the life it was about to become part of. A uniformed delivery specialist stepped out, a sealed envelope in his hand. Pauletta answered the door, surprised to see the stunning vehicle outside. "Can I help you?" she asked with polite curiosity. The man smiled. "This is for you, ma'am. Direct from Halston Elite Motors, special order, fully loaded." She raised an eyebrow. "We didn't order anything." The man handed her the envelope. Inside was a handwritten note on embossed stationery. "Mrs. Washington, on behalf of Halston Elite Motors, please accept our sincerest apologies. What happened was unacceptable, and we are committed to making things right. Not just with you, but within our company. This vehicle is a small gesture, but it comes with deep respect. Charles Halston, owner." Behind her, Denzel appeared, stepping onto the porch with that quiet smile he wore when something truly mattered. "You didn't have to do this," Pauletta said, touched, her fingers still holding the note. "I didn't," Denzel replied, gently holding up a set of keys. "They did. But this one," he said, placing the keys into her hand, "this one's for you. No limits, no assumptions." Pauletta smiled, eyes gleaming as she looked at the car, not because of what it cost, but because of what it symbolized. She walked toward the driver's side door, her reflection now mirrored in the polished surface. This wasn't just a car, it was a statement, and she was no longer underestimated. The car pulled out of the driveway slowly, its whisper-quiet engine gliding over the asphalt as Pauletta took it for a first spin, not just through the neighborhood, but through a world that had once underestimated her, and now had to catch up. Inside, sunlight poured through the windshield as she drove, wind brushing across her cheek, the keys resting firmly in her grip. A smile crept across her face. not just because of the luxury surrounding her, but because of the quiet power she now carried forward. Meanwhile, back at Halston Elite Motors, the staff had shifted. Conversations were different, expectations were different. Respect had become more than a buzzword. It had become the standard. And it all began with a simple moment. A voice, a walkout, a lesson. Narration begins to carry the story out. In a world quick to judge, kindness and respect still matter. And sometimes the quietest voices carry the most weight. Denzel hadn't needed to yell. Pauletta hadn't needed to name drop. The change came because they stood in truth, calmly, clearly, and with dignity. And perhaps that's the real message. We often talk about power, celebrity, wealth, influence, but real power is using your voice to uplift others, to shine a light without needing to steal the spotlight, to walk away from ignorance without losing your grace. Pauletta didn't demand a lesson, she became one. And that, more than any luxury car or Hollywood name, is what people would remember. This story was brutal, but this story on the right-hand side is even more insane.